Hello travel buddies, where have you been? I've missed you. Today I'm here to tell you about one of my other little getaways and one of my new favorite places to go for this summer, Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard is an island located off the coast of Massachusetts and technically is a part of the state of Massachusetts. It's a very affluent community with a lot of people of color, and it's one of those places where a lot of rich people have summer homes. The Obamas live there. I believe Oprah has property there and a whole bunch of other celebrities. Now, typically when you hear people talk about Martha's Vineyard, oftentimes you hear them say, oh, it's so expensive to go there. It's so expensive to stay there. And while yes, it can be really expensive to vacation there, I'm here to tell you that it does not have to be. Now, typically when you think about traveling, oftentimes the big ticket items are how do you get there and where do you stay? Now, if you're living on the northern part of the East Coast, then you've reduced your costs by maybe 70% because you could drive there, you could take the train, the Amtrak, or even if you fly there, typically from New York, you could get a ticket for less than $100 or maybe $100 at most. You could also drive too. Now, if you're flying in, you'll be happy to know that there is an airport located on the island. Now, going back to the cost of staying there. There are hotels located on the island, but they are limited and they get booked really quickly. During the summer is a very high traffic season for the vineyard. Now, that being said, there are other ways. Like I mentioned before, it is off the coast of Massachusetts, so that means you can also stay in Massachusetts. Now, depending on how much driving you want to do, then that would probably influence where you want to stay. You can also stay in Rhode Island, which is what I did because I wanted to check out Rhode Island too. Rhode Island is a really small state, so it's a quick drive to most places within that New England area. I did fly into Boston and I stayed in Rhode Island, and I know it sounds a little crazy, but it just worked for me because I was going to see friends there. That might not be what a lot of people want to do. It worked out for me because I was going to meet up with friends and I knew that we were going to be driving, so it would make a lot more sense in terms of cost to stay in Rhode Island. Besides, there were other places I wanted to go to anyway. You can always get to the island by ferry, which is what most people do anyway. The ferries are drive-on ferries. They're huge, they're comfortable, and they run pretty often. Let's take a minute to talk about the best and worst time to go. Now, during the summer, there are a lot of events, which makes it a wonderful time to go, but also, depending on the event, it might not be the most convenient time because it means that the cost of stay is going to go up, it's going to be really crowded, all of those things. And if you're okay with that, that's totally fine, like knock yourself out. But if not, I would avoid the holiday periods like Memorial Day weekend, 4th of July, Labor Day, that's when I would avoid. Also, there's this big film festival and writers retreat sort of thing that takes place there yearly, and during that time it can be really, really crowded as well, so I avoid it during that time. All of that aside, there's never a boring time to go to the vineyard. It's a cool place with really cool people. The vibes are always good. The beaches are lovely. The food is nice. The drinks just keep coming, and it's just a cool island vibe that just takes place all throughout. And speaking of which, I was surprised to see how many island people from the Caribbean were on Martha's Vineyard. Now, if you're coming from Boston or Rhode Island, or if you're just driving there, period, it's important to know that you drive to a parking lot designated for people who are taking the ferry. I think there are a couple of parking lots, but when you buy your ticket, the information will be there on where to park. Once you get to the parking lot, you're directed where to park, and then you have to get on the shuttle. The shuttle works with the boarding times of the ferry. The ferry ride is about 45 minutes, so it's nice and quick. There's a couple of points to get to the island. Bluffs is one of the more popular points, which is the one that I went to. But there's another side of the island, and I can't remember it right now, but I'll put it at the bottom. Now, even though it's a small island, it's still pretty big. So exploring the entire Martha's Vineyard in one day is probably not going to happen. Or maybe it could happen. I don't know. It depends on how much time you have and how much you want to do. But for us, we intended on going to the beach before we did anything else. There's tons of shops there. So say for instance you get there and you forgot sunscreen or flip-flops or whatever, there's this wonderful convenience store that's located like smack in the middle of that shopping area, right at the front when you get off of the ferry. We were able to grab a beach umbrella there, which was really cool because we didn't bring one, and we thought the beaches would have had some stuff like that, but the one that we went to didn't have any, so it was perfect. We had our towels and the umbrella, and that was fine. So we get to the beach, and while it's beautiful, oh my gosh, one thing we should have brought that we didn't were water shoes, because there were so many rocks. And these rocks weren't like cute little pebbles that were like, oh, cute rocks or whatever. They were hurting the bottom of my feet. Oh my gosh, it was so, I don't know. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the beach in Antibes, France, but you know, I felt like these rocks were a little bit more sharp. But yeah, just bring water shoes just to avoid that problem. The water is pretty shallow. Like even when you keep going further and further out, like I think you'd have to go really, really far out to encounter like really deep waters. But the water is fairly shallow, you know, up to, I want to say, you know what, I'm not gonna say. You just test for yourself when you get there. Once you leave the beach, if you want to go get something to eat, there's tons of restaurants. They're mainly located in the marina area. Now, as with any beach town, this area is popular for their seafood. The lobster rolls, the New England clam chowder, fish and chips, all that kind of stuff. Now, your girl doesn't do shellfish. I'm mostly vegetarian, but once in a while I'll do a little bit of fish. And I typically go for fish and chips in situations like this. The one that I got, it was decent. This is not a food review. Now, if you want a food review video, you'll have to watch somebody else. But this video is mainly going to tell you about the island and how to get there. Now, as with any kind of summertime island vibe, there's always great ice cream and gelato choices. And that was one thing I loved about being in Martha's Vineyard, is that it just gave you a really cool vibe. It's like island vibes mixed with Europe. I don't know, for some reason you just felt like a little bit of an escape. Martha's Vineyard is really great just to hang out there. You really don't need anything else other than what's already there, but it's just such a beautiful place just to walk around and chill and clear your mind. Like, honestly, I see why riders love it so much, because it's so relaxing. Even just walking along the side of the street, like, it was just so relaxing, looking at the water, hearing the waves. It was, I don't know, it just, the vibe there is just so cool. There's this big park that's like facing the water where people just go to lay in the grass, to chill out. There's a gazebo where you could take photos if you want. I cannot emphasize island vibes anymore. It's just chill all day. Nothing needed but just the breeze, the water, some food, and maybe a nice drink. Now, something else you can do while you're there too is yacht charters. If you want to go for sailing or something like that, but then you'd have to contact like one of those private companies to do stuff like that. But that's also another cool kind of vibe. You know, you can have a yacht party if you're down to do something like that. There's a couple museums that you can check out. Also, I saw a few art galleries. Those you have to book tickets in advance, at least the ones that I saw. There's also horseback riding or equestrian type sports if you're into that. You'd probably have to check their tourism website to find out more about that. It's a really, really beautiful island, and I think it's gonna be like one of those places where I sneak off to before I go anywhere else, especially when I'm on this side of the country, because, you know, it's not really that far and it's pretty accessible, at least for me. And also check out their tourism website. I'll put the link in bio. That is a great place to look at if you want to find out more about events they're having, you know, when's a good time for what event. You know, there are tons of festivals, like different types of festivals. And they even have things during the winter, which I found really interesting. So, you know, I'm probably going to go back there during the fall or winter. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I really enjoyed my time there, and I hope you get to visit there soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. Please, please, please comment. There are so many places that I've been to that I didn't have video of, but I'm working to get every place that I travel to now moving forward on video so that I could tell you more about it. If you have any questions at all, I'll be happy to answer them. Any questions regarding travel, even if it's not somewhere I've been to yet, it might be something that I could research for you, because I'm always researching places because I'm trying to think about the next place I could take a trip to. Until next time, happy traveling!